everyone, it's me, the Booknester, and I'm here today to do the international tag. Now this tag was originated by J.D. Archer, and I'll put, of course, the information to that tag down below. And I was tagged by Reads and Eats, and when I was tagged, I was like, oh, this is probably going to be another telling exercise. Another chance for me to see exactly what's going on with my reading. And I have to admit, it really, really was. So the point of this tag is that you are supposed to look at your books, at what you've read, and come up with 5 books from 5 authors that are from countries that you don't live in. So in this case, any other country other than the United States, for me. I've also seen it interpreted, or in addition, maybe to make it a little bit more difficult, a little more challenging, to also that these 5 books are set in 5 different countries than what you live in. And wow, as I said, it was quite an eye-opener. So here are my books and how I came about to try to figure out how I was going to accomplish this tag.
So here's the international book tag. And one of the challenges that I wanted to put forward, I was hoping to give you nothing but 5-star reads, books that I had read that I could recommend to anybody that I think were fantastic from 5 different countries, written by 5 different authors that also are from those 5 different countries, or the book was at least set in a different country other than America. And so I started looking at my 5-star reads on Goodreads. And the first country that came up is the United Kingdom. I mean, a huge percentage of the books that I rate as 5 stars, in fact, 57% of them come from the UK alone. The next biggest, well, there's no surprise here. It's actually United States. And again, if I look at the books, which are quite interesting if you look at them on their own, as 5-star reads, you come up with 38%. So if you add those two together, 95% of my books either come from the UK, authors based in the UK, or maybe a fairy tale land-like, or from the United States. It's not too surprising. I mean, I was raised here in the United States, and I think that if you think about your books that you read or given to read, a lot of times it skews to either UK or United States when you're going through your educational process. However, there was one 5-star read which didn't come from either one of these countries, and it's one from Spain, and it's this year's The Shadow of the Wind by Carlos Ruiz Zafón. I've already done a huge review on this, and of course I'll link it down below. This is a fantastic book, and I am so glad and so grateful to BookTube that kind of told me about it. I had no idea about this book. And who knew this was my only 5-star that wasn't from the UK or from North America, or I should say from the United States. So as we continue on, we'll start with Spain, and we've got The Shadow of the Wind. My next one is from France, and this is one I listened to years ago on audio tape and really enjoyed it, and that is The 3 Musketeers by Dumas. And I have to tell you, I had no idea he was so funny. I mean, just when you were reading it, I caught myself laughing out loud, or I should say listening to it. The next book is actually from this year, and from Sweden, from an author from Sweden, and it's The Royal Physician's Visit. I mentioned this in my traveling video that I did earlier, kind of, wrapping up my summer travels. Fascinating historical fiction book about Christian the VII, and really, really interesting story. And my next one's from Australia. Now this one is kind of unusual in that it's The Big Little Lies by Leanne Moriarty. And I have to tell you, this book kick-started my coming back and really starting to read, and eventually led me here to BookTube. I read this in February of 2015 when I was doing my big move up to the city up here to New York. And I devoured this book. It was a book that I could read quickly. It kept me entertained, and I just wanted to keep moving on with it. And then from there, I've really started reading again. Now, this is another one that is just this year. The author is from Japan, though the setting is in the UK. It's Remains of the Day. And another surprise book for me. I loved the movie, and I picked this up and I listened to it on audiobook. But what I didn't realize was how impeccably presented Anthony Hopkins does for the main character, nor did I know that this was a traveling book. This was a road trip reminiscence, so to speak. Fascinating, fantastic book. So those are my 5 from 5 different countries, set in 5 different countries and written by 5 authors from different countries other than North America. And you know, that makes up about only 10% of my 4-star reads. So, but these are fantastic books. I'd recommend them to anyone.
So I took a relatively probably simple process for most everyone else and made it very complicated. But I always love reviewing my reading. This also really opened my eyes to that the majority of my reading is obviously coming from the United States and from the United Kingdom. Is that a good or a bad thing? Did I enjoy the books? Obviously, they're rated 4 or 5 stars. Is it important that I read from other authors from other countries? I really don't know what the answer is, because for me, reading is about enjoyment. So if I like an author or I like a certain type of book, isn't it just great that I'm enjoying it and it's relaxing? This is a hobby, and I'm supposed to feel comfortable. I'm supposed to recharge from it. One thing is that BookTube does a fantastic job of giving me opportunities to do that. Most of my top books that did go international this year was because of BookTube recommendations, particularly one of my favorite from this year, and you know, coming from Spain, with Shadow in the Wind. I wouldn't have ever stumbled across that book on my own. There's no way, if I hadn't been a part of this community. This community is international, and so I'm hearing about more authors. But do I think that I have to change my reading? I don't know. I'm not really thinking that deeply about it. But you know what? The new year's coming up. 2017 is almost here, and we'll all be making some reading decisions. If I go look at my TBR shelf, my physical shelf, I'm sure there's a lot that are going to be English and or American based. So I think I'll still be going in that way, but I think I'm going to be more conscious about it and revel more in looking for authors from other countries. All right, so I'm going to be cheeky here, because the whole point of tagging these individuals is because I'm interested to find out what they might suggest so that I don't have to go out and research that much. Being lazy. But for this tag, I tag Momentomori, 7 Days at Sea, Pretty Eyed Reader, let's see, Life Between Words, and Brown Girl Reading. I'd love to see what you come up with, and maybe I can put that on my TBR for the future. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.